Today is October 18th, 2019. It is a Friday edition of Wrestling with Egos. Little piece of wrestling history for you as Jenny walks by to begin the show. On this day, 1 year ago, the phrase, "I am the man," was first uttered by Becky Lynch. Happy anniversary to the man, and welcome to Wrestling with Egos. However you are watching or listening to this crazy show, whether it be on Anchor Podcasts or on YouTube, thank you so much for making this Friday edition of Wrestling with Egos part of your wrestling week. My name's Patrick, joined as always by my best friend in the entire world, my good buddy, the Professor Brian. RJ could not be with us this week due to some family obligations. And you know what? Family obligations take precedence over everything when it comes to Wrestling with Egos. We'll see RJ next week, and he's going to absolutely love what we've got cooked up for him next week in terms of some homework. Big shout out to my doc because I am rocking the flu shot and the Bugs Bunny Band-Aid. Go doc. Hey, doesn't matter whether you're 9 months, 9 years, or 90 years old. You get some cartoon Band-Aid whenever you get a shot at my doctor's office. It's awesome. They're just like, whatever. Dude, before we get into our how you doings and our good, bad, the ugly, we love interaction on this show, and we've got a lot from last week. Don't forget to hit us up on Twitter. You can hit me up at Rant Mode On. You can hit Brian up at bcrigo15. RJ's not joining us this week, so he misses out. Hey, must be present to get plugged. That's the new rule on the show. If I don't show up, you guys don't mention it. So let it be written. So let it be done. Email the show wrestlingwithegos@gmail.com. Don't forget the Google archive, the repository as we call it, bit.ly/egos. Yep, you can see it all right above us. And that showing up and then going away like Thanos snapped it out of existence. And don't forget to like, subscribe, share, click the bell for all the notifications. Notice there are no arrows this week on the call to action for the like, subscribe, and share, because my beautiful wife, Mrs. Rant Mode On, pointed out last week at the first call to action to begin the show, the purple arrow that was on the left side of the screen looked like it was coming out of my nose, and I had a purple booger. So those are no more. Thanks, babe. Appreciate it. Bubba, how you doing?
I'm doing great. You know why I'm doing great? Because I have achieved, and we already knew this already, but I have achieved top fan status. Facebook told me so. I have been recognized as one of WWE's top fans, much to everybody else's chagrin, but I'm going to milk this top fan status for all it's worth. We're going to take you through the week that was in professional wrestling. We are a lean, mean, wrestle talking machine, and now it's even more so because your boy is a hashtag top fan.
You do realize being a top fan in WWE is like the smartest Alabama fan, right?
Don't care. I achieved top fan status, so I'm not going to let anybody forget this. Let's go. Let's strap in.
Doesn't take a rocket scientist to be a top fan of WWE. Speaking of WWE and AEW and NXT, let's start the show with the good, the bad, and the ugly. Brian, how about your good?
My good, and we're going to get into this at length in a little bit, but I have to say my good is Bayley.
Yeah.
Heel turn, championship victory, and it was one of the better executed, logical, thought-provoking turns I've seen in a long time. I'll leave it at that for now. That's my good. My bad.
Hang on, we're doing goods and then bads, then
Oh,
ugly.
goods. Okay, to you, sir. You're good.
Sorry, I didn't give you the memo. My good, and trust me, we'll talk about Bayley in a little bit during the meat part of the show before we get to fill in the blank. but I got something to say about that, and you're going to love it and hate it at the same time. My good goes to AEW Dynamite and what happened not on camera, not what happened on AEW Dark, but what happened after that. There's a story going around today, and I absolutely loved it. Apparently, there has been a kid over the last couple of shows at both Boston and Philly who has dressed up like Orange Cassidy, to the point where people are starting to call him Clementine Cassidy because, smaller kid. And he's kind of become, dare I say, AEW's version of Izzy. Cody brought him in the ring. By the way, Wednesday night was Clementine Cassidy's birthday. And Clementine Cassidy, much to the chagrin of one Maxwell Jacob Friedman, scored a pinfall over the executive vice president of AEW, the American Nightmare Cody. Loved it.
I saw a little note about that. I forget where I was watching, but I saw the clip, and the clip was pretty hilarious.
There's video. Cody goes to lay down, and MJF loses his mind. Don't you dare! Don't you dare! Don't you pin him! Don't you pin him! And then Clementine Cassidy just pushes MJF away, gets on top of Cody, pulls the leg, and both of the Young Bucks grab MJF and start pulling him away. I'm like, that right there is the good stuff. Loved it. How about your bad?
My bad is I'm going to say it's the totality of the schmaz that was the WWE Draft.
Ding!
I mean, we hyped this last week, and we had a mock draft, and the three of us came up with some great foundations laid for some new rivalries and some established stars, and on and on and on. And then,
and better than they did, I just want to add.
Yeah, and then I watched it both nights, and it's just like, okay, those obviously aren't USA executives and Fox executives, and that's obviously, they WWE just can't make it work when it comes to drafts. So I really don't understand why they keep trying to legitimize it in that way. There's other ways to legitimize it, and we'll get into that later.
The draft became utterly pointless, and I agree with you because that was also my bad. It became, in every other draft, in some way, shape, or form, there's always some sort of surprise. A champ gets, there was one year when Batista and John Cena both held the world heavyweight in the WWE. Can't remember which one was which, nor do I care. Cena was on SmackDown, Batista was on Raw, and then they both flipped. Cena came over in the beginning of the draft, and then Batista came over at the end. And it was just like, wow, that was pretty cool. Nothing cool happened. And they're also doing things that show that, in terms of their future booking, that none of it matters because Seth Rollins is still on Raw. Bray Wyatt is on SmackDown now. And both of those guys are going to meet in a country that WWE doesn't talk about, even though they're doing a pay-per-view there, Saudi Arabia, in a Falls Count Anywhere match for the Universal title. So, what, does Bray Wyatt go to Raw if he wins the Universal title, or is both the Universal title and the WWE title on SmackDown? And now, here's a better question. Is this also a means to put Rollins over on Bray Wyatt? Because God only knows the kingdom of Saudi Arabia is probably going to crack kittens if Bray Wyatt wins the title because, kind of a demon, whatever the crap he is. I mean, for God's sakes, they can't, women can't be on the show. How can a demon? Anyway, moving right along, what was your ugly?
My ugly is what they're doing with Seth Rollins and Bray Wyatt. They have taken their hottest angle and they have just torpedoed it.
Done what they do best.
And the one little shred of that whole thing, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on it today. The one little shred they could have done something with Monday night. Seth goes into the Firefly Funhouse, breaks the fourth wall or whatever, the fifth wall, the ninth wall, whatever you want to say. And that one moment where Bray looks at him while he's being beat up and says, "Why are you doing this to me?" That was like, I had a lump in my throat when he said that.
Yeah.
But then, he sets fire to the thing. And I'm like, it gets back to what I said last week. You had to be willing to go all the way with this character. With as much free reign as you gave Bray Wyatt, that had to have been an endorsement. We're going to let you go all the way with this. You can't be having reservations now that the egos are, or that egos are coming home to roost and everything.
Go ahead, finish. Because
I don't see how they rescue this. There is no rescuing this angle. It's going to shrivel up, or it's going to collapse like a house of cards, like all of these things that started off so grandiose and so,
Okay. I see your argument, but I'm holding out a little bit of hope because it is Heyman running Monday Night Raw, and you can clearly see that, the last month and a half to 2 months of Raw have clearly had his fingerprints all over it. One thing I want to point out, and this is why I disagree with you, but it wouldn't surprise me if you're right, because everybody else in WWE is a pack of morons. But I saw this. Why are you doing this to me? Punches him, sets the whole Firefly Funhouse on fire, and then you start getting these jumbled images of the Fiend. What if, go with me here, we're going to do like an ESPN 30 for 30. What if I told you that Firefly Funhouse was up until now all really happening in Bray's mind? What if Firefly Funhouse was kind of this way of keeping the Fiend at bay? What if this was the cage for the Fiend? Kind of like, I know you're not much of a comic book guy, but in X-Men, there's the whole Dark Phoenix storyline where Professor X basically traps the persona of the Phoenix inside the mind of Jean Grey, and as the Phoenix gets stronger, Jean Grey becomes a split personality and then loses control, and Phoenix takes over because the Phoenix is just so stinking powerful. What if this is kind of the same thing? What if this is a, Seth, by going Fiend hunting, just opened up Pandora's box? It's the very end of the second of the Hobbit trilogy, where all the dwarves and Bilbo Baggins are, dealing with the dragon, and the dragon busts out of the mountain and he's flying toward Lake Town. And, he's, "I am fire, I am death." And then that extreme close up on Martin Freeman as Bilbo going, "What have we done?" And then black, roll credits. What if that's it? What if burning down Firefly Funhouse was literally, we just let him loose? Now Michael Myers can go anywhere. Nobody's safe. And that's my hope. That's my hope, that despite Bray Wyatt going to SmackDown, which SmackDown got shaken up a little bit with some creative direction, and we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. I think we've got that tabled for fill in the blank, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. But what if this is really more to, Bruce Pritchard telling Paul, "Hey, you've had him. I need you to set me up. This is what I want to do. Because not going to knock Bruce Pritchard. Bruce Pritchard, I personally think, is a hell of a lot more creative than Eric Bischoff. Bischoff's a TV guy. He's not great with creative. I mean, let's be honest, every great idea Bischoff had in WCW, he ripped off from somebody else. Half of them were New Japan ideas. Biggest one being the NWO. But, like I said, just go with me. What if? What if this is all oh, crap?
That would be interesting.
I think it'd be pretty gangster. So you're ugly. We kind of went on that one for a bit, and it made perfect sense. But what's your ugly?
That was my ugly.
Oh, that was your ugly. Okay, well, yeah. So we're up to my ugly. Okay, my ugly. Sorry, lost track of what we're doing here. My ugly is the AEW Women's Championship match. Man, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That was an ugly match. And we talked about it last week, and RJ made the statement himself that WWE's women's division, Impact's women's division, blows AEW out of the water. And you saw it Wednesday night. I hated it. I hated that it looked like that. But it looked like that. Britt Baker, don't get me wrong, I'm a fan. I like her. But she's not experienced enough, and Rio literally can't lift up a 100 and I'm just guessing here, so if this ends up getting back to someone in Pittsburgh that might piss off the good doctor, I'm just theorizing here. Rio cannot pick up a 130-pound woman.
It was just a clunky match from start to finish. It was.
She got a little bit of muscle in her. Rio, there's no way in heck she weighs 100 pounds.
Yeah.
If she weighs 100 pounds, I weigh 140. I ain't weighed 140 since college.
It's kind of the one constant over these 3 weeks of television that I've watched is that the women's division of AEW is, suspect. I guess is kind of putting it nicely, and that match on Wednesday was underwhelming at best, and clunky, to say the least.
Clunky. That is a very good word. You can also use the word hot mess. I want to take one more thing on this, and I really wish RJ would have been here for this because I've got something else I want to point out about the women's division because I'm not really thrilled about that. And it is something that over the last couple of weeks watching Dynamite, Mrs. Rent Modon, who usually sits at the end of the couch here, has pointed out. The AEW Women's Championship belt looks like a toy compared to the World Championship. She points out WWE, all four of those belts, Universal, WWE, Raw Women's, SmackDown Women's, they all look the same. Same size, different colors, but same size. AEW World Championship, roughly size of my head, roughly. There's like the centerpiece, nice big circle. Yeah, it's these tiny little ovals, but compare it to, literally look at Wednesday night. Look at both world title matches. It was a male referee holding up the women's championship. Compare the centerpiece to the size of his head. Then compare the centerpiece of the world championship to the head of Aubrey Edwards, who refereed that match. You can make the statement, make the average that a human head regardless of it being male or female, it's going to be kind of sort of about the same size.
Yeah.
There's a vast difference in centerpiece. And I'm like, here we are talking about equality, and the women's championship looks like a tinker toy.
Yeah, I never noticed that. I'll have to go back and watch that so I can see for myself. But I believe what you're saying. They should probably address that.
I'm literally watching it right now. I mean, I pulled it up on DVR because I always like to have wrestling on in the background to enhance them. So that's my ugly is, let's just be honest, the AEW women's division as a whole. I hate saying this. Sorry, RJ. I know you're going to watch this. You're going to probably want to punch me, but deal with it. AEW's women's division is starting to remind me of WWE's Divas division. It's a bathroom break. I found myself getting up and going making some popcorn on Wednesday night when halfway through this match, because I'm just like, ugh, Rio can't do anything except run into her and kick her, and every time Britt Baker tries to pick Rio up, she drops her. Ugh. It's like watching one of the Bellas.
Regrettable.
It's like watching one of the Bellas before they hooked up with Cena or Daniel Bryan. Because let's be honest, late in her career, Nikki Bella wasn't half bad. Early Bella's moving right along. Brian, you talked about your girl a little while ago. Let's dive in with the Bayley heel turn. Before you go, sorry, I gotta do it, and you're gonna hate it. RJ, I'm stealing your thunder on this one, champ, because guess what? You didn't call this one Nostra RJ. I did. Why? Bayley, I remember very specifically, and I could not find what show it was, but I said that what Bayley needed to do was, as this heel, at some point she needed to come out with a knife and slice up every one of those wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube men. And you, kind sir, in camera right, in your Ohio State shirt, pointed out to me that seemed a little, I think you used the word either barbaric or extreme.
That sounds about right.
One excessive. Of the two. Excessive. That's the word you used. Excessive. Hashtag called it. Bayley comes out, has the little hood thing on, and I'm like, all right, like her new gear, like the fact she's got the hood on. She takes the hood off. First off, the short hair on her looks hot. I'm just like, damn, how are you doing? Shout out to Joey from Friends.
See, and the reason why I called it excessive was, or at the time, when this had to be back in like May or June or something like that, when we were talking about
right when she turned heel.
Yeah, right when we were talking about, how should it go? She needs to revitalize her character. And I thought she would mine that middle ground. But even the mining of the middle ground between full-on face Bayley and heel Bayley the way she went, it wasn't even the job done because it was already getting stale.
It was tweener Bayley, and it sucked. It was like, there's Bayley as, teen pop star. Here's music for you. Bayley as a face, teen pop. Britney Spears, early era Christina Aguilera, Disney singer, something like that. And then heel Bayley, Lizzie Hale from Hailstorm,
Yeah.
Just leather and badass and metal. Tweener Bailey, Avril Lavigne.
And the funny thing was, it took me a while to realize it was happening Friday because as you set it up, she comes out, same music, same two men, all this stuff, the neon lights and everything like that. But the mannerisms were different, and I only know this as well because I went back after it was over and I replayed it. I rewound 20 minutes or whatever it was, and that's the other thing too. They didn't come on at 9:52 with this crap. They came on and they gave it time to breathe. What a concept. She comes out and she's got that slow walk. She's not dancing. She's not air high-fiving the crowd. She's walking out. The first thing that got me was her face. She had a dour look on her face. She had exactly that look right there. Yes, I got the tube in here, but I'm pissed off. You know, I told you people what I was trying to do, and it's not working, so now I'm going to have to show you. And then you're right, the hood comes off. She's got the cropped hairdo, and it's jet black. And she takes, a longer than usual time to get the hoodie off, and she throws the hoodie behind her. And I want to give some props to Charlotte, too, because the whole time this is going on, they cut back to Charlotte, and Charlotte's standing there with the championship. A lot of parallels here between what Triple H did when Mick Foley did his transformation from Cactus Jack to Mick Foley.
She sold it here.
Right. It's the reaction. You could laugh at her and it would be pointless. But when she tilted her head to one side, as it like what am I watching here? And then Bailey turns and walks back up the ramp and grabs the blunt instrument. I called it an axe, but it wasn't an axe. It was like a poker of some kind. And I'm like, oh dear, it's happening. I messaged you guys. Oh my God, it's happening. Oh my God, it's happening.
And I was watching at that point. I can't remember what I was doing. And might have been doing something with the family or something like that. I ended up turning it on and backing up. And I was like, as soon as she reaches down and grabs it, I remember just arms up in the air. I'm like, oh my God, I called it. Oh my God, she did exactly what I thought, what I said she was going to do.
And she wasted no time. She got in there and she ripped those things to shreds. She chucked them off the stage. She's, spiking them in the end zone like a football. And then she walks down. And I thought to myself, okay, now where's the payoff? We got to have a good match. There's got to be some give and take. But Bailey's got to win or else this is all pointless.
We had a great match.
Yes, we did.
Better matches I've ever seen Bailey and Charlotte have, which I'm saying a lot. But the match was great. Bailey picks up the win, and I was like, awesome, that's cool. And there's no music. Bailey runs around the ring with a victory lap, and I'm like, okay, cocky Bailey. I like it. Slides in the ring with the title, grabs the mic. Listen up, bitches. Screw all of you. Drops the mic, and then they instantly played her new music, which, by the way, if you haven't really listened to it, there's some clips that people recorded from shows on YouTube. Her music's pretty hard rock. I'm like, yeah, nice, right down my alley. But when
as we're recording this tonight, SmackDown is happening, and she's a guest on Miz TV. So it's going to be interesting to see what her follow-up is. I mean, now, again, this is where the payoff happens. She can't be stammering Bailey, fumbling over her words anymore. She's got to come across as vindictive. She's got to come across as pissed off. She's got to come across as above all of you. She's got to come across as I'm tired of all this crap, and it's time for me to talk about Bailey now.
I'll bottom line that for you. Boys and girls, she's got to come off as a bitch. Brian's too nice.
Character's been missing.
Brian's too nice of a guy to say it that way. I'm not. Bailey has to come off as a bitch. And you know what? I think she could do it. I think it'd be great. I'm really hoping that this is something they do moving forward. But I love it. I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
Brian, and I would also argue that that's what deserved to happen the week before with Kofi. If you were going to take the belt off of Kofi, He deserved a 9, 10, 11, 12-minute match with Lesnar.
Right. But do we have to talk about that again?
We don't. I'm just saying I'm drawing the parallel between the end of SmackDown this past week and the end of SmackDown the week before. You give the segment time to do what it's designed to do.
Right. But, Brian, as we've said on this show 1.5 million times, we're smarter than they are. We have these great ideas. They don't.
True.
Moving right along. What's the next topic, man?
The next topic is, well, actually, I'm not sure what I didn't know if we were going to go to fill in the blank next because we kind of glossed over. Oh, I know what's next. You wanted to talk ratings again.
Yes, I did want to talk ratings.
Because we see a theme emerging here.
Yes, I do want to talk ratings. I saw, because JR, God, I did it again. RJ always supplies us every week these Nielsen ratings from Wednesday nights. And it's just awesome the way he packages this. And I'm actually going to put this graphic up and you guys can see it right now. This is what you're looking at in terms of the top 30 shows from Wednesday, broken down into not only each demographic, but also, number of millions of people, as you guys can see on the far right. I want to point out one very, very amazing thing. If you look in the 18 to 49 and the 18 to 34 demographics, AEW is pretty much, well, especially like the overall 18 to 49 and also the overall 25 to 54, AEW is dominating. Especially with the younger to middle age wrestling fan, which that would be all three of us on this show. They're ranking in the top 5, across the board each and every week. While, as you guys can see, NXT dropped down to the very bottom of this list, coming at number 30 in that demographic. As you guys can see, AEW pulled in a grand total of just over 1 million viewers, while NXT pulled in about 712,000. A lot of people are looking at it almost as kind of an indictment. And I saw a couple of different, I want to say it was like Cultaholic and somebody else had both said that, hey, this was kind of a damning thing for both shows because their numbers dropped. I'm like, you do realize they were going up against not only postseason baseball, but preseason basketball, when a lot of things have changed in the landscape of the NBA.
Yeah.
I mean, freaking, it's October. Everybody's numbers, if you're a sports fan, because let's be honest, the vast majority of wrestling fans, we like other sports. You can even make the argument. I don't know what is on, or what is or was on Brian's TV, but he had 2 options tonight: SmackDown or the Ohio State game. Me, I've got 2 options, and that's SmackDown or postseason baseball, hoping that the Astros will beat the dang Yankees, because I hate the Yankees. And I also like Justin Verlander, so hey, whatever. There's a lot of options. Everybody's numbers suffer during October. But the thing I did want to point out about these ratings, and I think RJ would say the same thing, AEW keeps climbing in those younger demographics. And it's not really something that I think we could really debate. It's just something that I think we need to call to everybody's attention. Go back and look. Week after week after week, they've steadily been climbing, which means they're garnering attention and they're getting over.
And I'll say this too, and this is actually a good segue towards the other thing that I just remembered that you wanted to talk about. There are stories behind these ratings too. You look at what the groundwork that AEW is trying to lay here. by folding in all these new talents every week, because every week they give you 3 or 4 more guys who haven't been on the main show yet, and then they also give you the dark matches where you can see people like Joey Janela, and you can see people like Pac, and you can see people like Kenny Omega, who might not make it on the main show that particular week. By the way, I watched the Joey Janela Kenny Omega dark match on YouTube yesterday, in between school ending and my parent teacher conferences beginning. That was pretty bonkers.
That was amazing.
Yes. And the other thing you wanted to talk about tonight is the in-ring return of Tommaso Ciampa. He's back on NXT and he's ready to stake his claim. And this is the one thing that I will give WWE some credit for. Their documentary people,
oh man, they
killed. Second to none. That Blackheart documentary, and gang out there in Wrestling with You Island, if you haven't checked out the Blackheart documentary about Tommaso Ciampa on the network, carve out about 25 minutes for yourself and watch it, because they do a great job in that of letting you understand what Tommaso's motivations are. And I've always had respect for the guy, but I have infinitely more respect for him now than I did before, knowing his backstory, knowing the things that his family went through, knowing the things that he's personally gone through. Dude is working his tail off for his family and for the job that he loves. And I'll just leave it at that.
And I cannot remember, first off, the match he had with Angel Garza was really good. Angel Garza is going to be one of those guys that WWE is going to end up doing something with. He's just good. But he beat Angel Garza with the rope drape DDT. Kind of like what Orton does, except Tommaso Ciampa does it and it looks uglier. I cannot remember what Mauro Ranallo called it, but it has a name now. And it's Willow's something. Willow's Whale.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
That's his daughter's name.
That's right. Yes.
That's his daughter's name. And I was like, oh, gangster. And because a lot of people and if you follow WWE, especially NXT on social media, you probably needed your tissues about 3 hours before NXT started, because Ciampa posted a picture of him holding that tiny little baby girl in her pink tutu and her pink bow on her head and everything else. And the only caption he posted was, "Tonight's for you." Yep. And I'm like, oh man.
So they're doing, I will say that both shows, AEW and NXT, are doing a great job of hooking you with storylines. On AEW, you've got the Bucks struggling to find wins. That's a story in itself. And you've also got
I bet say, dude, there are so many other things that we got out of this past Wednesday other than the Bucks.
No, and true. I mean, and then you've got, the whole setup with Omega, just doing that dark match with Janela. Like I got myself a match. It's going to be a lights out, unsanctioned match, and all that kind of stuff. All these big names that you think are going to be the made men and women are struggling to find wins, and that is compelling television in and of itself. And they're doing the same thing on NXT with everybody taking their shot at the Undisputed Era. You got Velveteen Dream laid out in the back.
Mm-hmm.
And what Imperium is doing. I mean, they're doing some great work too. There's all kinds of great storylines going all throughout these shows.
Damn dude on Imperium that's a slouch either. Ooh. Well, maybe the who was the guy that used to be in
Alexander Wolf.
Alexander Wolf, yeah, maybe him. But Eichner, Bartel, neither one of them are slouches. I knew Eichner was going to end up being legit when he was in the Cruiserweight Classic. I'm like, something about this guy. And Walter, sweet Lord.
Good old Walter.
I love Walter. That match he had with Kushida was just epic. Before we get into fill in the blank and homework for this week to close out the show, I want to bring up two things from AEW that we haven't touched on, and it's kind of one and the same. Boys and girls, we have a bona fide star in the making in Scorpio Sky. If you did not watch that opening match, it was going to be SCU and and the Best Friends,
Yes.
and then the Lucha Bros came out and they package pile driver Christopher Daniels took him out. Scorpio Sky came out in his sneakers, grabbed some tape out of the medic's bag, taped himself up, put himself in the match with Kazarian. Scorpio Sky came out of that match looking like a gangster.
Yep.
Like, good Lord. And I love the fact that halfway through the match, I think it was Chucky T. I don't think it was Trent. I think it was Chuck that took one of Scorpio Sky's shoes off. Later in the match, Scorpio Sky took the other one off, chucked it into the crowd, and then the crowd chucked it back. I'm like, Philly crowd for you. Gotta love Philly crowds. But everything about that match, which as great as that match was, I don't think you get that match with the in-ring generalship of both Daniels and Kazarian. I think you need the athleticism of Scorpio Sky, who I furthermore want to refer to on this show as Harold, the guy sitting next to Daniel Bryan during those group therapy sessions with Dr. Shelby. Thank you, RJ, for pointing that one out.
Quick side note about the Lucha Brothers.
Yeah.
They borderline scare me a little bit.
Ooh, they're good, dude.
I mean that in a good way. I mean, it was because they were wrestling later on in the evening, and
against Jurassic Express, yeah.
Yes, and by the way, those the Jurassic Express, good on them for taking a butt whooping, which is clear is what they were out there for.
Especially with Luchasaurus being out.
Yes.
Which it looks like it's a hammy injury, and you're not sure of how serious it is.
Right. But that's my first prolonged exposure to the Lucha Brothers. And those two guys, number one, they can go. Number two, they're intimidating. And number three, I was borderline scared sitting on my couch watching them wrestle a little bit just because of the whole presentation of them.
Yeah. Pentagon is the way he presents himself, especially in this box right here, the Vogue box. He's a scary cat. But what's even scarier is what the guy can do in the ring. Pentagon might be, if he was just a singles guy, he might be one of the top 5 in the entire world. He is that good. He won titles, won the big title in both Impact and Lucha Underground. And truth be told, I think it's a matter of time before he wins singles gold in AEW. I think you're going to get a run out of him and Ray Phoenix. I think you're going to get a run out of them as tag champs. I think they're going to end up winning the tournament. It's going to be them versus SCU. You can kind of see it coming that way, especially with the blood feud we're having. Going to be a hell of a match at Full Gear. I'm looking forward to it already. But yeah, I just the mannerisms of Pentagon, just the way he does everything, even putting the glove out, taking it off, Cerro Miedo. It's just everything about him is magnetic. He draws you in. Even if he's a bad guy, you're invested in him because he's a scary cat, and he can do some serious business, as the American Dream that they Rose would say. He can do
And
some
that's
big.
one thing that I will give AEW is they've got me wondering what's going to happen. There's about 15 or 20 guys. I'm like, I want to see what happens next with that person. I want to see what happens next with that tag team.
And that leads me to my next point. Remember how I said we have a star in the making in Scorpio Sky? Ladies and gentlemen, we have a star, not in the making. We have a legit star in Darby freaking Allin. My God in heaven, that main event with Jericho and Allin, you knew Jericho was going to win. You knew it was a foregone conclusion because you were going to get Jericho and Cody for the main event, for in the main event at Full Gear for the AEW World Championship.
Well, let's have some fun getting there.
Yeah, that match was unbelievable. Darby took a beating like he's supposed to do. Darby handed out a beating like nobody really expected him to. Jericho was pushed to the limit, got the cheap win with thanks to Jake Hager. Loved the finish, but you know what I loved more than anything? Everything that happened after Jericho taped Darby Allin's hands behind his back. Because look back in the history of professional wrestling, boys and girls. Anytime a dude gets his hands handcuffed, tied, taped, whatever, behind his back, he is a sitting duck. And from that point on, he gets sacrificed. Extreme word, but you know what? It's the truth. Mick Foley and The Rock, in that I Quit match. A thousand other instances, but that's the one I'm going with. Seen some dudes take some really ugly chair shots while handcuffed. Ken Shamrock. Yeah. Shamrock's handcuffed and The Rock just goes ba-bam right upside his head with the chair. Yeah. The match went on another 10, 15 minutes with Darby Allin's hand behind his back. Drop kicks off the top rope, flips. I'm like, holy crap. How is this match still going on? To the point we thought, and they teased it, Darby going up top for the coffin drop, and then Jake Hager came in with the big right. Knocked him out, and that was your ball game. But they pushed Darby Allin to the moon on that one, and well deserved. And Nostra RJ called that one. Darby Allin's gonna be a star, and he was absolutely right. I'm calling the next one. Scorpio Sky is gonna end up being the man. He's gonna end up being a star just as well. I can't say enough. The more and more I see out of Dynamite, the more and more I'm like, yeah, this is some good crap, pal. One more thing I want to point out before we get into fill in the blank. Aubrey Edwards. God, she's a good ref.
She is a very good referee.
One thing I loved is they give AEW, they give the refs interaction, they give them personality. And have you noticed that in both title matches that Jericho's had, when he beat Hangman Page for the title, and then he defended it against Darby last night, or against Darby on Wednesday night, anytime he's in a match with Aubrey Edwards as the ref, he pushes her, she pushes back, and then finger right in the face, just like, and he's just like, crap. It's like, I just pissed off my wife. Not saying they're married, but it's kind of like that. You don't piss off a woman like that. My bad. Sorry. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Fill in the blank time, brother. And as always, our good intellectual savior of the show, our good friend, our Professor Brian, has compiled a small list of fill in the blank questions that he and I will give short answers for, a couple of very small comments, and then move along because we've got about 10 to 15 minutes left to go in the show. Brian, take it away.
I'd love to. Our first topic for fill in the blank this week, and I get a feeling you're going to have a vastly different answer to this one than me, given how we kicked off the show. But you no doubt will have heard the news by now that Eric Bischoff is out as the general manager of SmackDown, and Bruce Pritchard is in, effective this week. So my first fill in the blank for everyone is Bruce Pritchard will have a blank effect on SmackDown.
Better than Bischoff. For the simple fact that I think Bruce Pritchard will be engaged.
Okay.
The reports I keep seeing were that Eric Bischoff was not engaged. I can only see this as being a positive because Bischoff has never, like I said earlier, Bischoff's always been a TV guy, not a creative guy. Bischoff will be, my opinion, Eric Bischoff will be better suited behind the scenes at AEW, pulling the strings, working with networks, things of that nature. Bruce Pritchard is better at creative. This is a good move for SmackDown. I'm in favor of it. Bruce Pritchard will have a better than Bischoff impact on Friday, on SmackDown on Fox.
And I didn't come at it from that angle. I just came at it from the point of view that it seems to me it doesn't matter who's GM because you're always reporting to the higher ups anyway. So I said minimal, but that was before I got to talk with you and hear your take on it. But because again, I mean, we're crying out for these storylines to grow and develop and not stagnate, and that's what we keep getting. So
everything that I've read in terms of, I'm reading a lot about what's coming to light in WWE right now because of this upheaval of Bischoff. Vince is trying to find people to take load off of him, not because he's trying to distance himself and take some time off or anything else, but he has so many different irons in the fire right now, especially with the XFL starting in February.
True.
He's trying to get that off the ground. So everything that I've read this week has shown, is kind of leading me to believe that Paul Heyman has more control over Raw than we really want to think he does. I mean, it's not like he has full authoritative control like he was running ECW, but he's got more than just, he doesn't have a sample size. He's got a bowl.
Right.
He's got a good bowl. So I think that's going to be the same. And now Vince is handing the reins of SmackDown over to someone that he has trusted time and time and time again.
True.
Bruce Pritchard came up with The Undertaker. Enough said.
Yes.
Enough said. Bruce Pritchard came up with The Undertaker. Bruce Pritchard also came up with part of the idea for the Montreal Screwjob, but he came up with The Undertaker. So I'm holding out hope. Next
question. For an effective heel turn, Bayley should keep her title for at least blank months. Okay.
9 months. Bitch Bayley, and that's what I'm going to call her. Bitch Bayley. Bitch Bayley needs to just wreak havoc. And here's honestly what I think. I think Bitch Bayley needs to beat the crap out of Sasha. I think that's her next move. Because Charlotte and Becky are now on Raw. The two biggest, baddest women on SmackDown are best friends.
Right.
Bayley needs to force the fans to turn Sasha face. And how do you do? Because you can't have the two baddest the two best both be heel, because let's be honest, there's not really anybody else on SmackDown that, you know,
We're
can
invested in.
except Alexa Bliss.
Right.
So let's be honest, you're going to have to turn Sasha face, and the best way to do it, bitch Bailey needs to beat the crap out of Sasha. I mean, almost to the point where, you know, Sasha's either crumpled up in the corner crying, or they fake blood coming out of her mouth. I mean, it needs to be brutal. So, my opinion, bitch Bailey needs to cut a bloody path through the SmackDown women's division. Mandy and Sonya need to take an ass whooping. Sasha needs to take an ass whooping. Nikki and Alexa need to take an ass whooping. I don't know who else is left in the women's division that's on SmackDown, but I know those. Huh?
Carmella.
Carmella needs to take an ass whooping.
Yeah.
I mean,
in the interest of equal time, you know.
Yeah, I mean, they all need to take an ass whooping at the hands of bitch Bailey. I honestly think you got something here.
Yeah.
Hello, hey bitches, screw all of you.
Yeah.
You know, I went from hugger to hey bitches. I love it.
Quite sea change. I have 6 months, which takes us to WrestleMania, because you know they probably have some kind of thing at WrestleMania.
Patrick, Richard was not looking at a calendar.
That's okay. I kind of like thought, okay, how long can this go? It should definitely go through the winter. It should definitely go through the Royal Rumble. I think she should emerge from the Royal Rumble still having the belt, and then you take it to WrestleMania.
6 is the better answer. I didn't even look at a calendar. I like that answer a whole.
Although you could, I mean, what kind of a statement would that make? You know, who she's facing whomever at WrestleMania, Sasha Banks or whomever, and she comes out of that with the belt and she takes it all the way to SummerSlam. That's a statement that they haven't made that often with a lot of people. You know, that's legitimizing Bailey the way that up to now only Sasha and Becky and Charlotte have been legitimized.
And you also have to think about something else that just came to my mind. At some point, we're going to get Nia Jax back.
True.
Because she's coming off of double knees.
Right.
So at some point, we're going to get Nia Jax back. So, Next.
The AEW wrestler you don't know much about but should is blank.
You get to go first.
I wrote down Darby Allin for this one. And I know we're starting to learn more about him, but I'm kind of looking at it as people who aren't watching AEW out there and want to know, what is this all about? What's one guy that I can queue up on YouTube or queue up on AEW Dark or whatever on TNT, and I should seek his matches out, get you some Darby Allin, because it's too easy to look at the Jericho matches and the Moxley matches and the Omega matches. I mean, Darby Allin, I think, is the microcosm of what they're trying to do with their television content.
Here's my thing. If you're watching AEW, or if you've even consumed a little bit of AEW and you don't know who Darby Allin is, you're clearly not paying attention, because the kid has been on TV every week. I mean, he's literally had more AEW Dynamite matches than anyone else, because he's literally been on every show. So I can't say this is the guy you don't know anything about, because if you watched AEW, you know. I'm going to mention somebody we haven't even seen on TV yet. Orange Cassidy. You got to know who he is. You need to know who he is, because that's just fun stuff. I mean, he's never going to be a serious player in AEW. He's a comedy wrestler. He's got a comedic shtick to his gimmick, but he's funny. And all the stupid, goofy crap he does, it pops. We're talking like Mr. Socko Pop. I mean, it's just that big. Those lazy leg kicks that he does, and that lazy super kick, which doesn't even get you groin high. He might super kick you in the quad. It's just funny, and in my opinion, a breath of fresh air.
Agreed.
Next.
The 1/3 of our show that could not join us this week, good master RJ broke this news to us earlier this week that the main event for Wrestle Kingdom is pretty much a done deal now. And Kazuchika Okada is the IWGP Heavyweight Champion, and he wants to defend his belt on both nights of Wrestle Kingdom. That's what the word is. So what I'm asking is, let's give that an adjective. Okada wanting to defend the IWGP Heavyweight Championship on both nights of Wrestle Kingdom is blank.
Okada being Okada. Kazuchika Okada. If you watch this show, to heck with what RJ says, which is pretty much the same thing I say. To me, Kazuchika Okada, for the last 5-6 years, has been the single best wrestler on this planet. Kenny Omega's a close second. But even when Omega had the title, Okada was and still is the alpha male globally in professional wrestling today. Everything that New Japan has done with Okada in the last half of a decade, a lot of it's unprecedented. And this is kind of one of those big genitalia moments where it's just like, yeah, I can do this. I'm Okada. To steal an old line from Triple H, I'm just that damn good. So yeah, that's just Okada being Okada. And real quick, in my opinion, he's the only guy in wrestling today with the kind of cachet to be able to say, yeah, I can do that.
Right.
No, screw you. I can main event both nights because I'm the draw. I'm the guy everybody wants to see because I'm the absolute best.
Yeah. I actually wrote down 3 for this one. I called it refreshing because all too often you got guys that, slink from the moment, and that's not what Okada is doing here. I called it magnificent, and then I also called it bonkers because he's going to turn into, stellar matches against whomever he's defending it against.
Yes.
Both nights.
Yes, I also would have thrown in Gangster. Yeah. I also would have thrown in G. I mean, it's just Okada, just like, yo, I'm Okada. It's Dave Chappelle doing one of his famous comedy sketches. I'm Rick James, bitch. Mm-hmm. It's that.
I'll steal an old Chris Jericho line when he was in the "We Are Huge Rock Stars" phase. I feel glorious. Yeah. I feel magnificent. I feel glorificent.
Yeah. I'll steal another Chris Jericho from you, and we'll leave it at that and move on to the next one. I'm the best in the world at what I do.
Yeah.
Point, cut, print, kill the pig.
Yeah.
Shout out.
The last one, you're not going to be putting a graphic on the screen for it the way we did with these words because it's actually a conversation. If I could spend,
No, it's not.
Oh, well, it's not for me either, but mine's going to be a little bit longer than yours.
It better be because mine's one word.
Oh, geez. If I could spend 10 minutes alone in a room with Vince McMahon, I would tell him
retire. No, I'm sorry. 2 words. Retire now.
Yeah, that's pretty succinct. Mine is slightly longer, and it's going to sound a lot like what I've said the past several weeks and months about him, but I'll just keep reiterating it because maybe he'll watch this episode of Wrestling with Egos and he'll understand where I'm coming from. I would tell him that the time is right to trust all the talent that you have assembled, the same way you trusted all the talent you had in the late 90s when you had to go up against WCW. You put your faith in Triple H and Austin and Undertaker and Rock and etc. You've got Charlotte, Bray Wyatt, Samoa Joe, Ricochet, Ali, The Revival, Nakamura, all these people that are great wrestlers, and you need to just put them out there on your show and let them wrestle.
I'd like to point out that all the people he just mentioned were people that he drafted on last week's episode. He didn't, except for Bray Wyatt. I'm just pointing that out, and I wish to God RJ was here because he'd be dying right now because you literally just did.
I didn't even think.
With the exception of Bray Wyatt, you mentioned nobody that RJ and I drafted last week. That was awesome.
I had more names written down here, but in the interest of time, like I had AJ Styles down here. I had all those. I mentioned them for whatever reason.
I'm sorry, but I'm not trying to be a jerk about it. I just thought that was hysterical.
Look at all these people that I drafted last week for Monday Night Raw. Don't you think you can make up? Just kidding.
Yeah. Look at all these people I drafted for Monday Night Raw and Bray Wyatt.
And oh yeah, Bray Wyatt's in the team.
And this Bray
Wyatt. La-di-da-di-da. Will it amount to anything? No, it probably won't. But I mean, that's just still. I would just love the opportunity to get inside his mind. But it's like you say, maybe he is trying to delegate now because he realizes all these other things are going on, and maybe it's a blessing in disguise. So who knows?
All right, let's go ahead and move on. If you guys want to add anything to the conversation, you can hit me up on Twitter at Rant Mode On. You can hit Brian up at bcrigo15. Email us wrestlingwithegos@gmail.com. Don't forget to Google repository at bit.ly/withegos. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share. I don't think I'm forgetting anything. Please engage. If you want to add to the fill in the blank, feel free. If you want to add to the homework assignments, feel free because we got some good ones coming up. I personally think last week's was pretty awesome in honor of, the birthday of one Latino Heat, Eddie Guerrero. I gave you and the absenteeism of RJ. And I cannot remember the date. I'm sure you have it written down.
I do. I don't have it on the notes that I have with me. The rest of my notes are across the room somewhere. But here's what you're going to want to do. You are going to want to get that Brian Kriego unpopular opinion alert graphic ready. And here's why.
2, 1.
This match gets a C- from me. And I'm going to tell you why. First of all, I did not find it on the network. I actually had to find it on YouTube. Okay. And when I found it on YouTube, it was actually split up into 3 parts. There were 3 8-minute segments. And because I typed in the date you gave me, and it was Rob Van Dam versus Eddie Guerrero. Now, it makes me wonder if I'm watching the match that you wanted me to watch, because does this match involve some interference from some other people? Or like some attempted interference from some other people?
Like who?
Like Ric Flair and Steve Austin?
No.
And Chris Benoit makes an appearance during the match I watched too, because it's in Canada, and he actually comes down. Security had him thrown out of the building. He comes down later on in the crowd with a ticket. Because the match I watched with the date you gave me is where Rob Van Dam, it was a ladder match, and he actually won the championship, the
Yeah.
Intercontinental Championship.
Crap, did I give you the wrong match?
You might have. But the match that I watched, I'm going to tell you why it gets a C minus. The C minus is solely on the back of Eddie Guerrero, because Eddie is the one that executes his offense. He's the one that I think drags Rob Van Dam through the match. I've always had this feeling about RVD, and this is my unpopular opinion alert. Not great offense. RVD has always had clunky offense. He takes forever to set up his moves. And I know that in WWE, Rob Van Dam had already had all of his great matches in ECW.
Yeah.
So, and given up a lot of his body, and he was kind of run down a little bit by the time he got to WWE. But this match in particular, I remember, number one, the quality of the ladders was terrible. You breathe on the ladder and the hinges break, or the slats break, or something like that. And
this was the same match because the ladders were.
Yeah. So in this match, it seemed like and this is either sheer madness from RVD or sheer stupidity. Every high impact move that this guy hits, he hits the ladder first before he hits Eddie Guerrero. The Rolling Thunder on the ladder, the Shooting Star Press on the ladder, the 5-star Frog Splash attempted on the ladder first, not on Eddie. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. And then how on earth RVD actually wins the match is beyond me. Eddie is stellar as usual. Eddie was as smooth as silk when he was on his game, and it felt like he was dragging RVD to the finish in this match. That combined with all the schmaz going on with the, Benoit at ringside, or in the first row ringside, and him teaming up with Eddie after the match to beat up Austin and stuff like that, and it to me it just detracted from the match. I get why you gave us the match, because it's a great testament to what Eddie Guerrero can do in the ring, right. But the opponent, I think, just detracted from the match for me.
Right.
That's why unpopularly I have to give this a C minus.
And I'm going to be honest, I can't give it a grade because I have been unable to watch it because I've had some network issues.
Okay.
And what's going on, so we'll leave it at that. So I wasn't able to watch. Just had a weird week here at 316 Ticked Off Avenue. Hey, that's the name. That's what we've renamed the house. It's
Okay.
Or you know what, 911 Rant Mode Way. 911 911 Rant Mode Way. No, 913 Rant Mode Way. 913 Rant Mode Way. That's the address.
Your address label budget must be through the roof, because that's like the 6th different address you've given out.
Right. Hey, I know people that work at an Office Depot.
Oh, okay.
I know people that work at an Office Depot. Get our old boy Captain Jordash on the phone. Get old Dad Jeans on the phone. Shout out to Dad Jeans. Love you, man.
God.
Okay. Please make sure he sees this.
I will. So for me, it was just it left me wanting more. Like and there were a couple of times where if Eddie falls a certain way, like he's severely injured, because they show that, like Jerry the King Lawler always called it the Wile E. Coyote cam from above the, where he falls off the ladder falls over, and he's that far from getting his back impaled on the bottom of the ladder, but he twists his body a certain way so that his left side is hitting first and the rest of his back is up, and he misses the point of the ladder by like that much. I rewound that several times and looked at that, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't think it was supposed to go like that.
Yeah, probably. Probably not. Like I said, wasn't able to watch. I will be able to watch this week. So that being said, what are you going to assign for next week?
You got to stay on your toes with the intellectual savior of the wrestling masses, because in the middle of our debate about some other things, I called an audible. You are getting a different match from the one that we talked about.
So it's going to be a rock match?
It is not. You will notice we've been on the air for 32-ish episodes already. How many rock matches have I assigned for homework so far?
1.
0.
You didn't. I thought you assigned the Iron Man match with him and Triple H.
That was part of the matches you need to see discussion. That was not a homework assignment. I understand I know my role here.
And so you're going to shut your mouth?
About The Rock for now. I get it. There will come a time when I will finally assign a Rock match for the people out there in Wrestling with Egos land to watch. This is not that time.
You'll finally look at me throwing out Rock references. All right.
Yes.
What is homework, dear professor?
I know that coming up in the next several weeks, we have not determined a date for it yet, but the next participant in our greatest of all time discussion is Mr. Rey Mysterio. So my homework for y'all this week, I hope I have the date right. I know it's a SummerSlam match, and it's the opening match, I think, of SummerSlam 2002, if I'm not mistaken. It's either 02, 03, somewhere in there.
Is this what I think it is?
I think what you think it is.
All right, Mick Foley.
The opening match of the SummerSlam in question is a debuting Rey Mysterio against Kurt Angle. And it's the opening match of that SummerSlam.
I forgot about this. I thought you were going to go Eddie and Ray for the custody of Dominic.
No.
Dude, the storyline was cringy. The match itself was
the match was great. No, that was, I think, 05 was that SummerSlam. But 02
about Angle and Mysterio.
It's either 01 or 02. I was trying to think about it.
We'll have to find it, but yeah.
Yeah, we'll find it. It's out there. And it'll be when I update the Google repository, the homework will have the proper date listed because I'll have a chance to properly research it.
I remember it because the first thing I thought about was the first time I saw the match was making fun of Kurt Angle because his singlet was just red and white striped, and I'm like,
Barbershop Quartet.
Oh no, I thought Candy Cane. I'm like, so Rey Mysterio versus a candy striper? So, give him an eye patch with a little white cross and a blonde wig, and now he's Daryl Hannah from Kill Bill.
Terrible.
Doing that little whistling.
Yeah, some of Kurt Angle's singlets left a lot to be desired.
Some of them were so bad.
Yeah.
We could honestly do a show on the worst, who in history has had some of the worst gear. And honestly, he would make my list. Angle's had some garbage gear.
That could be our Christmas present to Wrestling with Egos Land. That'll be our worst wrestling gear episode. Merry Christmas, everybody.
No, I think the Christmas episode should be worst matches. We should hey, we're not going to talk about anything this week except the biggest dumpster fires in history.
Because nothing's going on that week anyway.
Oh God, no. Nothing is after Survivor Series weekend. Nothing goes on until the start of December, and then Christmas week it all stops, and then the week after Christmas it kicks back up, and we ramp it up for New Year for the Rumble.
Right.
Same old, same old. All right, so it's gonna be Ray. It's gonna be arguably the greatest masked man of all time versus arguably one of the greatest of all time in Kurt Angle. Who I think, would Kurt Angle be in our criteria, or is he a little bit too above the bar?
That's up for debate. I don't see why he wouldn't fit into our criteria.
Yeah, because I think with our criteria, I think, those absolute, yeah, greatest of all time, Shawn, Flair, Hogan, Austin, um, Rock, I think they're all out of the conversation because it's like, duh. If you belong on Mount Rushmore,
Yeah.
go to hell.
Angle's worthy of some consideration for this down the road a piece, I think.
Yeah, I think truth be told, if we're talking AJ, we might as well talk, might as well discuss Angle.
Yeah.
We've talked AJ, we've talked Jericho, we've talked Taker. God, because I've had several ideas of people to talk about. So, and trust me, toward later in the year when less is going on, we'll have more of these episodes. So that being said, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. For the disembodied voice that is RJ, and for my best friend, Professor Brian, my name is Patrick, and this has been Wrestling with Egos, titled A Star is Born. Nice title. Nice title. No, we're not going to quote Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper or Barbara Streisand and Chris Christopherson. Yay!
I see what you did there.
Yeah. By the way, kids, there are 2 movies with the same name. They pretty much tell the same story. That being said, we're out of here. For everybody involved with the show, we'll see you next week. Until then, that's our story, and we're sticking to it.